All right, all right, all right. So going back to the Darjeelings, I kind of cheated a little bit. I've been picking these teas at random as far as sampling them. This time I did not pick at random just because I was so excited to get into this. This is my first time tasting the 2022 First Flush black teas from Darjeeling, and so really excited. Love these teas. Again, I did open up another pack. I smelled it. This one, oh, this one I think is going to be the winner. I don't know. I have some more samples coming, um, so I'm definitely going to try those. But just the smell on this is just amazing. And unfortunately, I don't know what to compare it to. I really don't. I think I've said before that um, there is a descriptor um, called muscatel. Um, when it comes to the Darjeeling teas, but honestly, um, I don't I don't have any experience with muscatel, so looking for my teacup. Where'd my teacup go? Oh, there it is. Okay. I don't have any experience with muscatel, so it's hard for me to say. But it is very sweet though, very sweet, very pungent. Um, and the more I smell this dry leaf, the more I do get sort of a raisin um, flavor going on. So again, maybe that's the muscatel. I don't know, but yeah, uh, definitely more raisin than grape. All right, so here is the cold brew, and because the golden tips samples are only 10 grams, I used a little less water for this cold brew just to make sure that I was getting a strong brew. The color, very similar to what I would call like a champagne, going back to the nickname for these teas, the champagne of teas. I really do think that nickname fits because not only the liquor color, but just the the care and the processing, and of course the taste really is something um, very fancy, very fancy, very rich, I mean, look at that color. That's something different. The other thing is I did do just a little bit of research on this one. The Golden Tips tea site does sell single estate teas, and so this particular tea comes from the Pudabong estate in Darjeeling, which is reported on Wikipedia anyway as the first tea plantation in Darjeeling to be planted by the British. It's also one of the largest plantations in Darjeeling as well. But yeah, just the smell on this, I definitely wanted to get this one first. Let's get a taste of the cold brew. Okay, so great, great flavor. Um, it is very reminiscent to what I'm used to when it comes to um, the first flush blacks. I will say this one does not get me um, as much as the one from last year did. So we still have some more to go through, but this one is really good though. Again, like I said, you get the aroma coming off of the liquor. It's just, it's just, man, it's amazing. The smell you get off the liquor, and then when you taste, it's just so refreshing, so bright, so light, and not light, but it's so bright and so sweet. Um, the there's very tiny bit of bitterness, and it's so small that in this case I don't know if I'll even call it bitterness. It's more of a tartness maybe, and it touches just the bottom sides of my tongue just a bit. Not even a lot, just a tiny bit, just a tiny bit, just kind of, you know, very good. I really like it. Um, Along with the raisin sweetness, um, I'm picking up a little bit of nuttiness. Um, I really wish I could describe more. You know, it always bugs me like when someone says like, "Oh, so you've had this food. What does it taste like?" And and especially when it's a food that you want the person to try, you struggle sometimes with trying to come up with the best descriptor for the food because you want the person to get an idea of what it tastes like, but also you want to entice them to want to taste it, right? Um, and so the best I can come up with is raisins. I really wish I had more though. I really do. I really wish I had more. It's one of those times where you're like, listen, it tastes really good. It's something like raisins, but it's more to it than that. You really just have to taste it. Going back to you know, this is definitely a tea that I would share with someone who was new to tea. This is definitely a very sweet, very aromatic, very good um, tea, very easy to drink. That I think that most that are new to tea will appreciate. Um, does this tea impress um, any tea friends? Not if they're already um, not if they're already initiated in the Darjeeling first flush teas. It's a typical first flush, right? It's nothing special about this particular first flush, other than that it's a good one. And every year is different, so who knows? This may be the best this year. It's not as great as the one from last year. All right, so let's get this hot brew going. I will say that I've been drinking this particular type of tea, these Darjeeling First Flush Blacks, for a couple years now, and I only cold brew these things. I just prefer it that much more to the hot brew. But um, just because we are sampling, I'm going to brew this up hot as well. And I don't really remember the brewing parameters for this particular tea, so I really am just going to wing it. Um, I do somewhat recall um, wanting lower temperatures for this particular tea, but I'm going to go ahead just because, like I said, it's been so long since I've done anything with this particular tea. I'm gonna go ahead and just hit it really hard and do really fast infusion and just see what I can get out of this. And then afterwards, um, I can play around with temperature and steeping times. Just get all that steam coming off of there. And the hot water um, really brings out something different. There's still the undertone of raisin, but there's this initial something um, that I'm getting off of that wet leaf, and I can't quite pick it out. It's something sort of savory, almost like I'm imagining something like sausage and syrup. I really like sausage and syrup or sausage and honey with breakfast. And I'm kind of getting that. There's definitely a savory note there, though. Um, so there's your hot brew again. Um, very light infusion, very clean. As you can see, it's very see-through. Um, not a lot of plant material. I imagine just a little bit that's here is probably just because of the first infusion. I'm not rinsing this, by the way. These are really, um, you know, clean, well cared for pickings, um, just at first sight. And the thing that I love about Darjeeling First Flush is that there's not a lot of processing, right? It is interesting, though, I will say, and I had to learn this the hard way, that India does, um, they what's the word I'm looking for? They title or they grade their tea differently, right? So um, there's two. There's the Darjeeling First Flush Whites, and then there's the Darjeeling First Flush Blacks. However, there are some Darjeeling First Flush Whites that look and taste a lot like Darjeeling First Flush Blacks, and that is because they process them pretty much the same way. My thinking on this is that um, some of the white teas, well, I'll say most of the white teas do get rolled or curled, right? Whereas the ones that I prefer do not. They're literally picked and dried, and that's it. There's no processing. For the Darjeeling black teas, they are all rolled, all of them, but they don't go through any further fermentation, as far as I know. Um, so it's not. There's not a lot of processing going on here. They're really green leaves, as you can tell. So not what you would consider a black tea by any stretch of the imagination. And I think that's evident in the liquor you see here, right? So this is what's considered a black tea for Darjeeling. So I don't quite know why they do it that way. I can't imagine what this tea will taste like in the second flush when it's had a lot longer to develop uh, some sort of something. Um, but whatever. It's the first flush today. So interestingly, I'm getting all the savory notes out of this hot brew. All the savory notes, very similar to what you'd expect to get from a green tea, like a fresh green tea. Something like spinach, zero bitterness, none whatsoever. Zero bitterness. Um, Definitely something of a creamy spinach. I'm not getting any sweetness. If I try really hard, I pick up a little bit of sweetness in the aftertaste, but I'm certain that's only because I've had the cold brew. And so that just goes to show you it's amazing what you get out of these teas when you allow the tea to infuse into the water slowly over time. You get just this amazing sweetness. I mean, there's just no question about it. It's just very sweet, um, a lot like what you smell from the dry leaf, right? And then when you hit it with hot water, for whatever reason, the first thing you get is this savory sort of, I don't want to say grassy because it's not grassy. but it's a savory um, vegetal. I can say that vegetal flavor, but really leaning much more towards spinach than any other vegetable. Right? It's not as um, it's not as strong as far as the spinach flavor as you would get from a Japanese green tea. Um, but there are definitely some Chinese green teas that I think um, will be in this same realm as far as flavor profiles go. Um, there's no question that it's a green tea. Oh man! And now that the heat is dissipated, all I'm getting is savory with a slight undertone of raisin, and that savory aroma. Um, I just the only thing I can come up with is you know uh, sausage and syrup. Like those Jimmy Dean sausage links, and you just like put those things in a skillet, and then put them on a plate, and then pour some syrup in that plate, or maybe you have some pancakes going on, you know, and so the sausage is in the plate with the pancakes, and so I'm going to steep this one um, a lot longer, just because I know that it can take it. Based on the cold brew, there is very slight bitterness. There was no bitterness at all in the first infusion, and so I'm gonna really hit this one really hard and see what I get out of it. I imagine that what's gonna happen is I'm going to dial up the bitterness. Um, I might punch up that vegetable spinach note, but I'm hoping that some of that sweetness comes out as well. And then, like I said, after this, I'll play around with water temperatures to see if I can pull the sweetness out of the hot brew. So my patience, I don't think is going to allow me to go any further than this. Let's go ahead and pour this off. And I'm going to really try to get all the water out of those leaves. And so, again, you know, champagne of teas. Yeah, it's amazing. It is very, and the leaves are all open now. So again, Darjeeling First Flush Black is definitely for sure a green tea. No questions asked. Um, what is interesting though is that in the cold brew, all of a sudden you get this kind of black tea sweetness, right? So it's really interesting. Very aromatic tea. The other package I opened um, did have the same sort of sweetness, but just not as sweet. And there was even a hint of spiciness on that one. And that's always the balance on these Darjeeling teas, is because you have this strong chai flavor in those second flushes um, that you will sometimes pick up in a first flush. And then I think too, sometimes with these plantations, I think they these the teas that they grow are primarily for the second flush um, chai um, flavors and teas. But I think because the first flush Darjeelings fetch such a handsome price, um, they will also do pickings for first flush as well, even though they're not typically first flush teas. So um, I think that's a lot of what's going on, because typically, and I don't know this to be true across the board, but for golden tips anyway, they will only have maybe two or three first flush whites, but they'll have like 20 first flush blacks. And so I think again that's just it's because the Indian market um, is more towards the English breakfast teas, the Assams, the chais, that sort of thing. All right, so here we go. This is the second infusion, much thicker, right? Much thicker. And so I'm really curious to see what that body does. Um, see what we get here. Bitterness is dialed up. Um, still mild, very mild. The bitterness is under the tongue and on the sides, which is the bitterness I really like. Um, still, still savory. I'm not pulling out. I'm not pulling out that raisin sweetness that I know is there. Um, it's really interesting. If I were just having this tea hot brewed, if I had never cold brewed it, if I never tasted the cold brew, then I wouldn't know about that raisin sweetness. Perhaps I'll be searching for what I smelled from the dry leaf, right? Maybe that's what I'll be searching for. In this case, though, I'm really searching for that sweetness that I get from the cold brew. That um, it's just not. I mean, it's there a little bit. Again, only because I know it's there. Am I able to tease it out of the aftertaste? But everything else going on in my mouth is this just savory, and now I can say really sort of a vegetal. Now the spinach is gone, and so that's what's happening here. So the longer steeping times uh, dials up the bitterness and takes away from the creamy spinach thing, right? But you still have this vegetal thing going on. It's still a very green leaf tea. I mean, it's not grassy, but it's definitely vegetal. And there's no vegetable that I can affix to this flavor at the moment. Um, the bitterness is dialed up and taking it away. So that means that spinach flavor that I was able to get in that first infusion um, is very elusive, and it only happens with really hot water and really short steeping times. Um, Anything longer is going to dial up the bitterness, but then it's going to get rid of any sort of um, real um, flavor profile, if I can say that, because again, it does taste vegetal. It tastes like something, right? It tastes like green leaves, um, but not any particular green leaves. Just like you imagine if you were to pick a green leaf from any tree anywhere, you know, and brew it up, it'll taste something like that. Um, and I don't want to take away from the flavor profile and saying that it tastes like just any old green tree because it's still really good, right? It's not bad at all. I'm gonna really enjoy drinking this tea today. Um, but it's just because I've tasted the spinach before, and now that I've lost that, I feel as though I'm losing something, right? Um, but it's a really good tea. Really interested to see what um, what the rest of these samples have to offer. Yeah, it's all savory now with an undertone of raisin. And maybe if I let the leaves sit overnight, I'm sure that once all the heat dissipates, right, and they're able to really settle, then I bet you that raisin sweetness is going to come back. I'm almost certain of it because right now, yeah, it's almost like 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 a breakfast sandwich where it has the egg, the sausage, the cheese, the jelly. It's like that, but it's not the biscuit so much, and it's definitely not a cheese smell. It's more of just like the sausage and the jelly. So savory sweet sort of thing going on. Grape jelly, raisins. Ah, there we go. So yeah, savory sweet, really good. I enjoyed it. Um, Looking forward to trying some more. If I do tease anything else out, if I figure out something else about the tea, I'll definitely come back and talk about it. But I'm definitely going to enjoy just running through countless infusions of this, and then I'm going to definitely uh, brew up a second infusion of this, and maybe even a third if it goes that far. So far, I haven't had anything go as far as three infusions. So that'd be really interesting to see if that happens with this.